there. This is Cambridge University Gender Studies Society, and I'm joined here today by Athene Donald, Master of Churchill College and a incredibly impactful researcher in soft matter physics. Yes. You've written a book called Not Just for Boys. I think that obviously has to come from a deeply felt emotion, a place of passion. So I suppose my question for you is, when was the moment you realised that you were being treated differently to the men around you?
So I went to an all-girls school and no one told me I shouldn't do physics. And then very shortly before I came up to Cambridge, I went to a house party at Harrow School, public school, where a family friend was a teacher, and he invited me and my sister along. And Harrow at that point was all male, and the sixth formers sort of came up to me and said, and what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm going to Cambridge to read physics. And there was this sort of complete, oh wow. And at that point I suddenly realised that this was not regarded as normal, which no one had said to me before. I didn't have a brother,
Right.
So that was when I realised that what I wanted to do was unusual.
Yeah, so it was kind of gendered for you. It was gendered externally. Yeah. Because you'd gone to an all-girls school, it just never crossed your mind to gender your academic choices.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And do you think, because as you stated in your book as well, most women in positions of prominence in the sciences tended to go to all-girls schools. So how would you describe that sort of academic environment, as you understand it being different from a mixed-sex
Because I think if you study classroom interactions, if it's a mixed class, the teachers interact differently with boys and girls.
Oh, okay.
And I think children internalise that. So if the teacher is asking the boys more questions, ignoring the girls, whatever, the girls may withdraw. I was talking to, over the summer, I was talking to Carol Monaghan, who is an SNP MP, somewhere in Glasgow, I think, who had previously been a physics teacher. And she was talking about how she actively tried to bring the girls into the classroom discussions so that they gained confidence. Yeah. So she was conscious of it, she worked on it. But if you have a teacher who, and sadly in physics, there aren't enough physics teachers, so often physics is being taught by a non-specialist who may feel quite uncomfortable teaching the subject anyhow and be more worried about keeping control than anything else, then they may not think to do these things that would make a difference. And I think that's why if you go to an all-girls school, you don't have this same kind of
preoccupation.
Preoccupation and sort of teacher attitudes that will colour how children see the subject.
Okay. You also mentioned that women in rich countries, even when they have the opportunity to choose STEM subjects, they're more likely to avoid them. Would you argue that this is on a more cultural basis? Because you also mentioned that in poorer countries, women are more likely to go after a STEM career.
Yes, I think so. I think the analysis that I have seen, hypothesised, I guess, rather than proved, is that if you are in the global south, say, you don't have the sort of aspiration to be a footballer's wife. You want to make society better. You are probably in a country where it's very evident that there are opportunities to make the country better, and therefore that women are more likely to feel that is a worthy goal, if you like.
Right.
So it is cultural, it is due to their societies.
You also talk a lot about the term brilliance. This is a very interesting term, usually one associated with, as you state yourself, like economics, with physics, with associated subjects. Why do you think that the idea of brilliance isn't applied to different epistemologies, to different fields?
I think it's partly to do with history. I think it's partly to do with our attitude, certainly in this country, towards maths, that people, we have this sort of attitude that maths is difficult. Lots of people say, oh, I never could do maths at school.
I'm awful at maths. I can't do it.
Well, there you go. And therefore, the belief that you have to be, it's something inherent that I can't do maths, but that person can. So maths is seen as challenging. Of course, physics, economics, not philosophy, are very dependent on it. Oh, well, some philosophy is. But I think, now, what was the other? Yes, the growth mindset. If you believe that you cannot improve, that it is something that's innate, then you're not going to try.
Yeah.
And if you believe that if you work at something, you will get better, so if you have a growth mindset, then you are more likely to feel empowered to do these things.
I know lots and lots of people who kind of have that understanding of an inherent talent, whether it be towards the arts or towards the sciences, and I feel like people do develop like insecurities in a way.
That's right, and teachers will fuel that. So I remember when I was at school, at the end of my first year at secondary school, my French teacher said I had a lousy accent, so I just gave up. I was perfectly good at the language, I could write, but I couldn't speak. And I'm sure she was right, I'm sure I did have a lousy accent, but I just gave up trying. And I think teachers can do that quite unintentionally.
In what way, because we're talking about, trying to encourage women to go into the sciences, in what way do you think that society would benefit on the inverse, encouraging men to go into the humanities and to have more respect, I suppose, for that field?
I think society is better overall if we have a diverse mix. I don't think you should have a majority of either.
Yeah.
One of the things that amused me, again, to use my children as an example, that my son's English teacher, when he was 11, said, well, boys can't write. And you think, this is just ludicrous.
A bit dense.
It was a woman who said this. And I think these attitudes are so prevalent and so unconsciously held that we have a long way to go.
Interesting, very interesting. So in the sense, diversity is good. Diversity benefits all of us. What are some of the pathways, I suppose, in order to having more diversity across a wide range of disciplines?
I think going back to the earliest years, making sure that we enable any child to experience anything. I mean, if we go back to toys, if you give Lego, Duplo to children, they can build anything they want in principle.
Okay.
And they get used to thinking in 3 dimensions, which is one of the key things that as an engineer you need to be able to do. If we don't let girls play with those kind of toys, they don't develop that ability. And then the teachers can say, well, see, the girls are no good at this.
Right, okay.
You need to enable them to practice. And if you think that if you give a boy a doll, then he may develop nurturing tendencies, then maybe he'll want to be a nurse when he grows up, or think about psychology. So these implicit messages, I think, are very powerful.
Yeah, I saw that the study that you referenced in your book, the taxi drivers, I think it was. So it goes on to a fundamental level, the idea that, taxi drivers have a larger, not going to attempt the part of the brain, but a part of the brain very important for spatial awareness.
Yes, yeah. And they can, it grows as they practice. And that's in adults, which shows that, it comes back to the growth mindset. Anyone can change if they work at it. Not everyone's going to be a Einstein, whatever, but you can improve. And the interesting thing about the taxi drivers was also when they stopped relying on, when they stopped being a taxi driver, I think it was called the amygdala, if I remember, but I may be wrong, it shrank again.
Oh, okay.
So practice makes perfect.
Neuroplasticity.
Yes, it's neuroplasticity, yeah.
Okay. You're pressed for time. I don't want to take too much of your time, so we can conclude the interview here. But it has been an absolute pleasure to listen to your talk and to meet you, and I hope that you had fun alongside the Cambridge University Gender Studies Society.
Excellent, thank you.
Nice,
Yes,
thank
it's
you.
been a good evening. Cool.